two before the one. Wisdom is water, I'm the daughter of the cannon fodder. Applied knowledge and insight, a born scholar. Look like a martyr to marauders like Tartar. Wise owl slaughter, whack MCs order applauder. Original woman, decipher the womb. Crown of creation, fruit of the planet Earth.
Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to another episode of Wazza Dome TV. Today, I have a very special guest. You've seen him on this show before. He's a good friend. He's a scholar, an Islamic scholar as well. Sheikh Bilal, thank you for coming to the show. It's always an honor and a pleasure to have you on.
And all praises due to Allah. What CeeLo said, in that I think it was on the Goody Mob album.
Hmm.
I thank the Lord for having a chance to breathe. I hate to mess the quote up, but
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, that's that man.
thank the Lord that my voice was recordable. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on Soul Food. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, that that album actually kind of got me through a lot back when that came out, man. That Goody
uh,
Mob album.
it was definitely ahead of its time, man. And I'm
Yeah.
glad it was.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, man. So Sheikh Bilal, again, like I said, it's always an honor and a pleasure to have you on. Um, Can you talk about how you first came across the teachings of Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba, and what about his story connected with you, being an African American?
Nice. Yeah, it's a couple of bullet points on that one because
Hmm.
it started in the Orthodox days.
Hmm.
Most folks kind of be like, "How you hear about Sufism in the Orthodox days?" But there's this dude named Dawood who was an elderly gentleman, and he wasn't the muezzin they call it a prayer, but he was always the first one there. So a lot
Hmm.
of times he was the one that would do it. So we would build before prayer and after prayer. When I was, kind of gung ho in the Orthodoxy, he was the first one to mention these Sufis and this deep poetry and stuff that they do. And I'm like, how come
Hmm.
your mom don't talk about this?
Right,
And then
right.
now I know why.
Hmm.
But after a while, I'm looking them up and I'm like, why all these Persian and Anatolian and Sufis from way up there? Where's all the black ones at? And
Yeah.
the original thought popped it. Just put black in front of your Google search. Put African in front of your Google search on Sufism, and it's going to direct you where you need to go. And Bamba popped up, Ibrahim
Hmm.
Yas popped up, Sheikh Ibrahim popped up, but the person that was mentioned the most was Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba, and in that whole entire search, like, alhamdulillah, let me
Right.
dive in. But what resonated with him and his story is like, man, and Tuba, his example was a perfect blueprint for creating like a self-sufficient and autonomous zone, right?
Hmm.
That didn't have to rely on the French colonial authorities because they were so strengthened from the inside. So you get stuff like the infrastructure and construction, the byfall handle. Give the business a saying, give the byfall la ilaha illallah, leave them alone.
Right.
You give them la ilaha illallah, leave them alone. They'll have a mosque built in no time for
Mm.
everybody else to go pray in.
Hmm.
Um, Agriculture in certain communities where they're able to grow certain foodstuffs and then keep within the community within itself in Tuba. Their cultural and religious unity and their spiritual unity are all intertwined. And I love that because, Bamba likes to synthesize a lot of things. And, I use that word synthesize because we know what it means over here. But to me, he went back and got all the original pieces of our systems that were taken away from us and he
Mm.
put them together in a system that even us over here in America can find and read and have access to. They Man, this man's teachings got such an inner structure. I'm still kind of frustrated. Like, man, why wouldn't your mom teaching this?
Right,
Like,
right.
why would he not teaching Islam from this depth? I probably would still be going to the Orthodox mosque if it
Hmm.
was, really spoken of. But the structure that they got over there is what I think that we could use over here, where we don't rely on our enslaver and their descendants like they didn't have to rely on and don't rely on the French and their colonial exploits and stuff.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
perfect
No,
example.
no, that's a perfect example. Okay. And you mentioned tuba, right? And Senegal. For people that don't know, when we talk about holy places within Islam, you're going to hear obviously the holy city of Mecca. You're going to hear uh, Medina. You're going to hear Jerusalem. Um, but can you talk about Tuba in Senegal?
I like how he frames it after it's founded, but for him getting to it During that time frame, there were a lot of migrations going on. After the Spain debacle, people are slowly going back into West Africa, and the Wolof actually are very connected to like the Fulani and I think it's the Fulani and Serer from a few generations back before they split and kind of became autonomous, but they all came into Senegal together.
Mm,
The Fulani and Futa Toro and the Wolof essentially settled in this place called Tuba because Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba was the spiritual leader at that time, and him being so in tune and connected with God, he was always in prayer and meditation, even if he's teaching. So
right.
he's being guided like, I need to find a place to where we can settle at. I need to find a place where we can set up and have our zone so we don't have to rely on the French.
Hmm.
And that angel or that voice pops in his head and it tells him to stop at a certain spot where this tree is or sits down. And that's where he found the city of Tuba at because of,
Wow.
divine inspiration coming to him from being so um, on, in, and of the path,
Yeah.
never not doing anything that the path talks about. So it's found and is looked at as a holy city because how he came about coming into it was just between him and a spiritual connection between Muhammad and Allah, coming
Mm,
back and forth, conversing etherically. So the term holy city is because of that connection between him being so close to the prophet and him knowing that the closest thing being period to Allah is the prophet. So
mm.
I think that ain't three awesome degrees right
Right.
there.
Right.
Conversing, you know.
No.
Tuba is centrally located, so there's only one time where you might find them needing to rely on a little bit of aid from outside,
Hmm.
the rainy season. Other
Okay.
than that, self-sufficient and autonomous. But the rainy season kind of gets them because it comes down hard.
Wow. So when we think about tuba, and do they have do you know the African diaspora, African Americans, brothers, Muslim brothers in the Caribbean, Muslim brothers in the UK, do they make pilgrimages to Tuba?
Indeed, yeah. Okay, we can go there now. All
Hmm.
right, so let's go ahead and get into it now
Let's
because
get
Tuba
into
is so
it.
holy, right?
Hmm.
Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba says in one of his poems that during one of those intimate conversations between him and Allah by way of the prophet, he said Allah so said that he sent the angel Jibril and the other angels down to the Kaaba in Mecca. The structure is still there, but they lifted the spiritual essence of the Kaaba and then they brought it to Senegal right in the and dropped it down right at the same spot where the great mosque of Tuba is at.
Hmm.
It's a saying in the Quran that there's a tree of Tuba, right? There's a tree
Hmm.
of Tuba, and it's one of those trees that grows upside down from up
Right.
there, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
esoteric and occult knowledge, the tree that Bamba sat down up under is directly up under whatever that is up there,
Mm.
in the heavenly bodies. So there's, that type of connection with it. Mosque being founded and the spiritual Kaaba coming there is why a lot of the people in the Murid community, whether they are in other parts of Africa or whether they're over here, yeah, if I can make it, man, my pilgrimage is going to be to Tuba because it's like 5 to 7 grand for like your basic package to go do everything at Mecca.
Right.
Why does it cost so much for me to fulfill a religious obligation, right?
Right.
But
Because they're making bread off of everybody, man.
mhm. And then Tuba is not quite like that. Of course, there are entrepreneurs there. They got businesses, they got mouths to feed, but it costs a fraction of that amount to get a plane ticket and go to Tuba, and then a fraction of what you would spend in Mecca to then stay in Tuba because of the currency exchange.
And I would assume that obviously in Tuba you're going to experience a brotherhood that you might not experience somewhere else, right?
Psalms 133 in all caps, bro. In all caps, man. Exclamation points and everything. Because you go out there and you see nothing but people who look like you.
Hmm.
There's a couple of, whites. There's a Tibetan Buddhist guy that studies with the Bifal now and
Hmm.
doing promotions for him. So there's some people coming in, but the majority of it is all us.
Right.
It's
Wow.
all us, and they seem very happy to see each other. Like if I just saw you yesterday, when I see you tomorrow, it's
Yeah.
like they really feel
Right.
how they live because they really live it.
When so eh, when we think about like orthodoxy, right? And there are some there are some ways and traditions that Moorids and Bafal like well orthodoxy maybe like yo like what's up with that, or they're not following the dean the way they're supposed to. Can you talk about some of that some, because I think even in America you'll hear the same criticisms for black Islamic groups such as the Nation of Islam, Moorish Science Temple, and things of that nature.
Right. And there definitely are some connections between those systems from over here and the more community over there.
Hmm.
There's some things that are more inner tradition for them over there, so you'll never hear them say anything about self being true God.
Yeah.
They will embody the names of Allah, but they won't say, man and God are one. But the teachings do imply that. So,
Oh wow.
with the by fall from Sheikh Ibrahim Fall, the ones that wear the dreadlocks and the bright colors, patchwork and whatnot, to a super orthodox person, they might look blasphemous, really.
Hmm.
Just speaking from that perspective, because the Bifal don't make five daily salat the day at all.
Right.
Their work in their service and their charity, and them giving themselves to the system for the benefit of the people and the system itself is essentially a prayer. Because Bamba and Fall say things like, "You work as if you're gonna die tomorrow, and pray as if you'll never die."
Hmm.
So put emphasis on both of them. The Bifal are able to combine them together. And I was trying to find. There's a Quran verse that is mentioned that they use to explain like kind of why they don't.
Okay.
I think it's in Ali
Yeah, I would love to hear
Imran.
that. Uh-huh.
And they speak of um, they don't no, it's not in Ali Imran's in the spread table. There's a section in that chapter that speaks about those who do the charity, the work and service for the community, widows, orphans, all of that, all encompassed in one, and that's all they do. But they do that to the nth degree.
Hmm.
It's talked about the same way to where like that is something that is so beloved in the sight of Allah that if you might have missed Salat yesterday, Allah bless you so much today because of what you did to where that Salat missed yesterday is don't trip on it. Especially if you were doing the same thing yesterday
Hmm.
and the day before that.
Yeah,
One
because
thing they
that's
don't
no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
is these like the long prayer beads and whatnot.
Hmm.
They do your standard small 99 count.
Oh
But if
wow.
you come in with a 100 count, or I have a 250 count and a
Hmm.
500 count with some deep meditation, they automatically know.
Yeah.
They'll give you a hard time. Like, brother, what are you doing with all of those beads around your neck? All you
Yeah.
should say is this and this and this, and
Hmm.
and you're done. Everything else is innovation. So
Mm.
then we use the Quran on them. Say, well, Allah said, "Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman," and they shut up
Mm.
because
What
that
does that
says,
mean?
verily Allah and his angels send blessings upon the prophet. So they do their mantra and their zikr. Oh, you who believe, send blessings and peace upon him in abundance.
Mm.
So the Quran said to do it in abundance. It
Hmm.
doesn't say just do 33 or 99. To do it in abundance with a
Right.
great amount of peace and respect. It doesn't give a set number at all. And when they realize that, they're like, you
Well, isn't it true
can't
that
get
some Zikr masters and Sufi masters, I mean, Sufi masters have done Zikr like for like a day, like, you know what I'm saying? Straight. Like, I've heard stories like that.
yeah, a whole day, and then from like the spiritual side
Hmm.
for that, it does kind of make people that are into the more spiritual side feel like they have this etheric connection.
Hmm.
Like things make a lot more sense, a whole lot clearer. The mind is able to attune. You get that little tingly sensation in your head.
Right, right, right.
But like with me, I'm looking at it from that side and like a science of the mind perspective, like marrying the esoteric and exoteric
Hmm.
because like I didn't have such a great day yesterday, so I didn't find time to read or study any of the books I got. Was kind of stressed about something, had a flat tire, and then an hour later caught a nail in another tire. It was just
Mm.
a ride
Yeah.
kind of day.
Hmm.
So I didn't do any reading yesterday, and everything was kind of off balance because I didn't start off by reading something so spiritual or so deep or sometimes occult or esoteric that occupies my mind. I'm thinking about a higher reality all day
Hmm.
instead of worrying about stuff that I obviously got over because here I am today.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Focusing on that higher reality clears the mind, so you can focus throughout the day, and whatever would have stressed me out before probably wouldn't have.
Right, right. Most definitely. No, I can definitely see that. It's like kind of like what the more science people would consider their higher self, right? And things to, continue to feed that higher nature within self, within man. I know
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba a lot more today, but you mentioned Sheikh Ibrahim as well, and I think he's sometimes is less known about here by some, even though there is obviously a growing number of by fall here in America. But
Sure.
can you talk about who Sheikh Ibrahim was as well for the people who are new to the subject?
hmm And for those that like to read like us, I'll throw out this book, uh, The Chosen
I gotta
Ones.
get that. Hold on, hold
Yeah,
on, hold on, hold on. You dropping some jewels now. Show
run
me
it
that again.
down.
All right.
It's The Chosen Ones within the the Chosen Ones within the circle of the Sufi mystics. The By Fall is
Mhm.
written by Bai Bimba So, and you see that brother,
Right, 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 right.
straight by fall, man, straight by
Yeah.
fall. He in the music industry too. You'll see him in some music videos from some of them, but he's a by fall and an author. But Sheikh Ibrahim is who we call Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba's like greatest or brightest, most hardworking, perfect example of what a disciple should be when speaking about the relationship between a sheikh and disciple, or teacher and student, or in his case, teacher and representative.
Hmm.
He had heard about Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba in Senegal, and he knew that if I found this person, there would be a light about him. He had this light shining from his forehead. There'd be something, there's an essence about him I can feel when I get close to him, because that's what all these teachings say about this man. So he struck off going to go find this sheikh with the intention to work for him, because he knew if he was that close to Muhammad and Allah, then dang on it, he wanted to be
So
close there
Sheikh,
too.
so Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba had a reputation as being, someone who was a master.
Yeah, his dad was a qadi, or a judge, jurist for the king of Senegal at that time.
Mm,
So he was already well versed in law and fiqh, jurisprudence, and tasawwuf, Islam, and all of that, all wrapped
wow.
up in one in his 20s.
Hmm.
And Sheikh Ibrahim met a sheikh who seemed like he might be kind of bright, like he had some disciples around him, and the school was good. People were elevating, and he noticed one day that the sheikh's daughter left the house and was might have been showing a little too much skin than it's supposed to show, right? And he realized it. That guy is not Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba. Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba's daughters won't dress like that. Now they're the pristine epitome of like womanhood over in the Senegal. So he got ready to leave that sheikh. His sheikh's like, "Where do you think you're going?" Uh, Bamba wouldn't speak like that either.
Hmm.
And Sheikh Ibrahim tells him, "Well, there was a point in time when I wasn't here. Uh,
Mm,
Now is coming a time when I'm not going to be here anymore. Like
mm,
I'm on a mission to find Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba." And two disciples come by, and he sees that light on
mhm,
him. So we ask him about Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba, and those disciples say the closer you get to him, you'll hear the angels saying, "The first to reach the high place shall be the most high." Like esoteric. The first to reach the seventh chakra is going to be God Himself, or the first to reach the high place shall be the most high, or embodying traits of Allah and Muhammad. And the closer he got to where Bamba was, he actually heard angels that he couldn't see
mm,
saying that over and over and over in the story. But he essentially studied up under Bamba and became his greatest disciple and example of how to be a Murid and how to be a Baifal. So all the ethic and moral teachings, do's and don'ts, cultural, spiritual, all of that wrapped up in one example was him,
mm.
Shaky Bafal.
Are there any difference between, by fall and Morids as far as what they are now and how people, and how people choose to, uh, I guess, manifest their way of life in Islam?
Yeah, and then there's a obvious one too, like looking at it like a advanced education or like university or college, but spiritual culture and everything all wrapped up in one. It's not quite free, you know.
Yeah,
So
right.
it is not as much. to go through the by-fall system as it is to go through the Murid system. So for some of the people in the community that might have been Chedos, or I hate to say lower class because it's not a caste system really, but if they weren't able to afford the Murid path and that level of school teaching, they were able to get the same thing from Ibra Fall essentially by work and service, also with the same teachings and whatnot.
Hmm.
But the teachings with him were work and service for the community. So you're still doing things for the Murid. Eventually, you hang out with them. You still reading the same prayers, doing the
Yeah.
same zikr. So
Yeah.
esoterically, not much different. But on the outside, you can see that like by far the one that's going to be working outside. They build in the mosque, but the Murids are the one that are doing the studies to become imams or teachers in the mosque for the community.
Ah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now let's talk about your work. You just recently uh, published a book. It was a translation of some of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba's poetry and prayers. And
Yeah,
can you please talk about that? Also, let the people know the title of the book. Let them know where they can get it. The link will be in the description.
got it. The one I intended on releasing first just needed a little bit more editing, but it's the Lifted
Mm,
Veils, 15 select qasidas, and the word qasida means poem or spiritual poem by Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba. The Like I said, the transliteration, translation, the graphic design and whatnot, all of that's done by me. Graphic design major from the Savannah College of Art and Design.
hmm.
Uh, what you'll see on the front is Bamba and all of his 9 sons, or sons and a
Oh,
grandson.
wow. Okay.
Oh, so you got the Bamba as the first and top center, and Sering Muntaka in the bottom middle is the current Khalifa.
Hmm.
So just a succession of the sheikhs in the order. But it's like the title says, it's 15 select poems. And what I realized in studying his writing was like, as far as in book form, not a lot of them exist in English.
Hmm.
You'll definitely find one in Arabic online. Um, if you make it to Tuba, you can get the book itself. So essentially, what I wound up doing is taking what I did to teach myself how to read Arabic, and then doing that like in book form, right?
Yeah.
So if a person were to get it, they'll start off on one page and then they'll have the qasida itself.
Hmm.
Even if they can't read Arabic, they'll have, each line. And what that says, that's Allahu min kulli karimin, or Allah is more generous than any generous one. But if they flip to the very next page, and it's set up like that throughout the whole book,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah, that's better.
is
Okay.
the
Yeah.
transliteration
Hmm.
of what you just saw on the other side. So if
Hmm.
you read the transliteration, it comes out sounding like you're actually reading Arabic, with the,
Mm.
depending on how the person's accent is. I'm from the South, so my
Yeah,
twang's a little
same here.
different.
Yeah, same here.
uh, but in the chapters themselves, like there's 15 poems, so it's essentially 15 chapters in the book, 298 pages. It's a line by line breakdown of the poem from the Arabic to the transliteration and then to the English. And right up under the transliteration in the English is the word by word explanations of what each individual word means in its space, context. And depending on what was going on during this time frame, whenever he wrote a poem, a little bit of history is explained in the paragraphs also.
Nice.
So by the time the person gets to the end of a certain chapter, they'll have the same thing again in the
Hmm.
book, the same exact poem, and written right above it would be the Arabic. So they'll have access to it right in the same spot. So essentially, they can use it as a study tool.
Yes.
To start off at the beginning of a chapter with a poem in Arabic you can't read, or might not be able to read as quickly as I can, and study it word by word, get the pronunciations right. And when you get done with the chapter, you can either read it from the transliteration, and pronunciation might be a little better. Now you'll know what you're reading.
Hmm.
Or you can try to look at the Arabic and see Allahu min kulli karimin akramu, man ahmahu qaddahu takarumu. Whoever focuses on him will receive honor. After reading it so much, now I know what it means in English.
Yeah.
But that same thing can be done with this particular book, because each of the 15 chapters is done that exact same way.
Wow.
Like
That's
Arabic
awesome.
transliteration,
And then
word by
English.
word,
Hmm.
line by line, and then in the English with context, and then some history, depending on what was happening during the time frame when it was written. So it took a minute to study, so I had to go back through all my old notes, from
Yeah.
like year one.
Yeah.
Type in Bamba in the search function on social media, right, to then find all my old muses and posts that I spoke about things or in motivational speeches and stuff like that, to pull all that and kind of organize it to have an explanation of who he is to
Hmm.
people that might not know but might bump into his book. Now, I was lucky enough, Sufi Bob, when he was here, he actually gave me a couple books. Like
Oh wow.
that's straight from Dahira Milan. So they have a Dara in Italy. So
Hmm.
whenever he was in Italy, he bought a book from Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba in Italy. How this whole thing started off with just me doing it as a practice because it's 258 pages in here.
Wow.
I did the same thing.
Uh-huh.
There's
Yeah.
writing up
Ah,
under
I
the Arabic.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would start off by writing everything out in phonetics right up under the Arabic word. So you're really reading it twice. It's a
Hmm.
nice way to study because you'll have the Arabic up there to try.
Hmm.
And if you can't quite get a word down pat, you'll have the Latin transliteration right up under it. But essentially, this book has now become this.
Ah, right. Right.
Um,
This is the new one.
Muqaddimatul Hikmah. This one actually came out right before the other blue book.
Okay.
I essentially finished them all back to back, and
Hmm.
then went into doing my edits so I could have some time to drop one and finish another, and one and another. But what this one is it's a 7 day prayer.
Hmm.
It's the introductions to service and prayers on the Prophet of Mercy. It's a 7 day prayer, so it's 7 chapters. Like the
Okay.
last one was 15.
Hmm.
It's 7 chapters, but each chapter, like chapter one is Monday, chapter
Hmm.
two is Tuesday.
Okay.
So each chapter has a select day that that particular reading is assigned to. So it winds up being a prayer that you take with you throughout the course of the week. Like yesterday, I should have read, Friday, but didn't, and I might have got something from it. Like I would have read Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Maulana Muhammadin al-Hulahil wa sallim alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa tahhirni bijahihi min jumlati radha'il, which in English is, O Allah, send blessings upon our master and patron Muhammad, the kind one, and grant peace upon him and his family and his companions. Purify me by his honor from all vices and wrongdoing. Hmm.
Wow.
But wasn't yesterday? There's a vice. I was stressed out. You might
Right.
have did what I was supposed to do, and there was somebody I probably wasn't that nice to. So if I would have read this yesterday, send blessings upon our master and patron Muhammad, the kind one. Like to demystify it, Mu means one who is, and Hamid means praiseworthy. So if I'm embodying kindness, then I'm embodying a Hamid, I'm embodying a praiseworthy trait. So I'm not
Right.
saying I'm the prophet by any means. Now, don't Allahu Akbar me, y'all.
Right.
I'm saying
Right.
embodying the traits, right? Because they're
Hmm.
all action verbs. They're ways of being.
Hmm.
You know, Al Hulahil might sound like a formal Islamic name, but it's a character trait.
Yes. Right.
It's an embodiable character trait that we're able to embody. So with this one, on top of it being a 7 day prayer, it is exactly 787 of them
Oh,
in the
wow.
book.
Wow.
You know the significance of 787, right?
Yeah, 787. It's
Mhm.
abjad, right? For
Yep.
but I'm still learning. So can you explain that to the people?
Yeah. It's the 787 is the abjad or the alphanumeric equivalent for Bismillah ar-Rahman
Right.
ar-Rahim, or in
Right.
the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. You would take each letter's numerical equivalent. When you add them all together, you end up with 787.
Hmm.
So not only did he make the prayers in this book use attributes of Allah and Muhammad with, I think he uses each individual letter of the Arabic alphabet to formulate those attributes and whatnot. 7 days, and and if I would have read this one yesterday as well, there would have been something else I probably would have bumped into. You
Right.
know, but that's another way he does that abjad. So now the numerical equivalent for Bismillah or Rahman Rahim, or beginning everything you do in the name of Allah, or as you are Allah, like in the image manifestation of Allah. That's what the ism and bismi
Mm.
means esoterically in the image of.
Yeah.
They don't say it out loud.
Right. Right.
So
I
all the
think
way through, it's essentially a reminder: the
yeah,
letters, the names, the attributes, and then Bismillah, and remembering how you're supposed to act when you go out and move forward in the world.
yeah, for sure. And but I want you to kind of tell the people also like in a Sufi tradition, right? Because they may just think, all right, you know, it's a book of poetry. Like they may think of like of what a Western poet or what they think of Western poetry to be, or a book of
Mm.
prayers, right? Like, can you talk about like first off, um, when we're talking about uh prayers and poetry from the Sufi is quite different, but also wasn't Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba like known for like in other words like he had a crazy pen game when it came to this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, because remember, there were 13 different forms of Arabic prose available at that time, and he synthesized them to a 14th one that no one had at the moment. That's
Wow.
why if you see some Murid and Bifal actually go on the Hajj to Mecca,
Hmm.
they'll be out there reciting them qasides out loud, walking
Wow.
around the Kaaba. Like,
Wow.
I ain't gonna go too much in there, but I'm pretty sure that's a hell of a feeling, bro. Just to
Yeah.
be there, regardless of what I know about,
Hmm.
Islam. But every now and then you'll see an Arab just pacing right behind that brother, just crying, bro.
Mm.
Just crying like, is this black man that is reciting this praise poetry in my language that beautiful, walking around the Kaaba over here? How can I not understand his language? Like I could understand it because it's Arabic, but no, it's just Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba and synthesized forms of prose all being used kind of back to back, up, down, left, and right, all in the same book.
Wow. Wow.
So linguistic mastery, these types of prayers, like in the Sufi tradition, they're more spiritual. So they not to say like I know why Cage Bird sings is not spiritual because it is,
Hmm.
but it's more spiritual akin to an esoteric side of a religious tradition. So you get deeper with your prayers. There's more intent behind the prayers. A lot of them are very, very deep and esoteric and spiritual. So when you meditate on them, kind of like you were saying earlier, it makes the heart feel light. It makes the body feel light. It keeps the mind clear, and it polishes the heart.
Yeah.
Because remember that's where it all began at. Whether you tapped on that door or whether you took your shahada, all that began right here in the heart.
Hmm.
So these prayers are by some looked at to have a type of esoteric power about themselves because of essentially what we're doing is reciting 787 words of power
Right.
in
Right.
the prayer. And a lot of these words of power are things that are latent attributes within the person.
Hmm.
Right? So people are like, if I read this every single day, I'm hitting these spiritual vibrations and I'm trying to embody these. Like, no, what you did was those spiritual vibrations woke up those latent potentialities within you so that now you realize that this attribute of Allah that a couple years ago I would only give to Allah. I
Hmm.
wouldn't say anything about this name to anybody else, but now I know I can be Rahim and Rahman. I can be gracious and merciful to someone. Uh, my generosity can be so generous to where it becomes a mercy to the person that where they don't have to worry about anything.
Right.
So there's a degree of those names that we can embody, and that's kind of how he formulates the prayers, to where you get to see these some secret attributes, because a lot of these attributes and names are not in the Quran,
Right.
but
Right.
they are implied based off of things he did and what other people noticed about him. And same thing with Allah, like observable forces in nature. Things
Hmm.
you're able to see happen, but you can't see what made it happen.
Right.
And those prayers are, and there's something else. Some of them are so deep, man. No homo, but like they'll make you cry.
Mm.
I ain't ashamed. I ain't ashamed to say it because when I read some of them and I'm seeing these prayers on Muhammad, right? Some people may look at the literal personage, right? But the way some of these are written, you realize that these are traits that I can portray and exude. So if I do that, then I'm the one that's praying for the one being prayed for is me.
Right.
Right. So all of these things need to wake up within me. I'm not necessarily venerating a person outside of me, especially knowing that it's on the essence, it's this Nur Muhammad
Hmm.
is what that prayer is going to. Nur means light. So the light of the one who possesses praiseworthy character. That is literally the exact same concept as the Christ consciousness.
Right.
People are able to do the prayers in Christianity, like they say, you tarry on the name of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
This is tarrying right here. You say it
Mm.
over and over and over and
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over and
Mm-hmm.
over again. So they literally have the exact same science, and they're able to get to that mental and spiritual state of inner balance and peace to where can't nothing knock you off your square. Matter of fact, it can't even get close to the cipher that's around the square to knock you off of it in the
Mm.
first place because it keeps you spiritually centered. Sometimes you might have a bad day, but then think of something deep, like from a Sufi prayer like that, and it takes your mind away from materiality. I realize now
Yeah.
that this my back might hurt, but this is not me,
Mm.
right? I
Mm.
didn't get that in regular Islam. We got that in Sufism.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not me. So this thing that hurts isn't me. I'm the one that feels it. It hurt. Don't trip about it too much. I know eventually it'll stop hurting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, that's deep. That's deep, man. Do you see
Um,
West African Sufi traditions like the Murid path as reconnecting to your spiritual lineages that were disrupted during the transatlantic slave trade?
yeah, most definitely because there's not just that spiritual connection to where I have this attachment to not say like attachment to Bamba, but the teachings and the understanding and the knowledge I gained from studying him and his system. There's this Senegal to America connection with Sheikh Ibrahim Fall that we were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
One of his disciples fought in the war, and he came back and he was sitting down with Sheikh Ibrahim Fall and telling him about the war and what happened. And as soon as he said, when we got off the boat and we went on land on over in America, Sheikh Ibrahim Fall cut him off like in mid sentence. Don't sully the name of that land.
Mm.
It is not America. It is Murid. And in
Mm.
Wolof, Murid means the land of the Murids.
Wow.
So he knew.
Wow.
He knew. So,
Hmm.
and then even if we look at the Olmec heads, right, the
Hmm.
headpieces, look up the headpieces the Senegalese were wearing a generation
Mm.
before Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba. Look at the headpieces Mansa Musa was wearing and his brother and all the people of that time in Mali. Them the exact same headpieces, bro.
Wow.
The
Wow.
exact same gold headpieces. And for me personally, my mom's dad is my genetic well-off connection.
Mm.
If he was a little slimmer, a little bit taller, and wrapped himself up in all white like Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba, facial structure, the way the eyes recess, the way the forehead slope is, the way his head is shaped,
Mm.
everything about him is just straight up either Senegalese or Nigerian. He might have because he mixed up, but
Yeah.
those two traits are the strongest just because of how the Wolof typical, skull shape,
Hmm.
same forehead slope and genetics, and he looks just like that.
Right. Right.
And doing family tree and ancestry, I found out like, yep, it's straight on his line all the way back.
Wow. So it's even ancestral for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I can really go anywhere, man. Like I feel at home, and
Yeah.
then I don't feel like I just gravitated and attached myself to something. It was a person who had more writings and teachings than any other Sufi I could find online,
Mm. Right.
and he looks like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my granddad comes from that line. I'll never tell my granddad that his ancestors were Muslim. He might, you know, he might not like that because we're in the South, but you
Yeah.
know, to each his own.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. One thing I wanted to ask you about was the concept of I'm if I'm pronouncing it wrong, just let me know. But Baraka or spiritual blessing. Um, can you talk about what that is and how you understand that to be?
Yeah. Um, Sometimes you'll see it spelled with a single A after the R, sometimes a double A, depending on if it's stretched to match like a cadence or whatnot. But either way, a short A or long A is still understood. Uh, Baraka or Baraka. But Allah said in the what's called the Hadith Qudsi, which means a holy Hadith, that um, the earth cannot contain me, nor can the heavens contain me, but the heart of the true believer does contain me.
Hmm.
So Islam does have some anti-spooky teachings too. It lets you know that where you think Allah is, it's right here.
Hmm.
Like if you ask somebody, man, who are you? Point to yourself. They instinctively do this.
Right.
They point right to the heart. And the process of obtaining what's called Baraka or blessing, right?
Hmm.
Divine aid, gifts from God, depending on what they are for the person. They can come from like self introspection, like meditating and applying these attributes, seeing how I can put them in and place them within self. Spiritual practices like your prayer, mantra, your zikr, and of course the study of the teachings that show you how to do that. And these names of Allah and Muhammad tend to become embodied by us, so we can possess them to a degree. That's a blessing. We can possess them to a degree to where certain things we don't even have to do. It's just automatic, right? Like
Hmm.
Allah is the changer of situations, the changer of states, the changer of mental states. But let's just say the changer of states. If I eat a banana, it's not going to stay a banana. It's the whole way through my body, right?
Right.
There's an unseen force on the inside that's going to digest it for
Hmm.
me. I don't have to tell my stomach to do, you know,
Right.
it takes the nutrients it needs to fix the body, and it fixes the body with it. And whatever it can't use, it shits it out. Like
Hmm.
that's a blessing. It might be, small because it's inner. Most people don't think about the body like that, but I don't have to make this thing do anything on the inside. It does it. All right. So
Right.
I can be grateful for that. Allah is Ash-Shakur.
Hmm.
But Tupac Shakur, like Shakur means thankfulness or
Hmm.
grateful, gratitude. So not only is it a last name for him, it's an embodiable trait. So
Hmm.
don't just give that to Allah. That's a blessing that many people don't realize. You don't have to throw these names up just to solely to Allah. We're supposed to embody them while we're down here. But when you see
What?
a lot of these names and action verbs and latent traits, you leave the old ways alone because they limit the forward movement and the gaining of more what they would call Baraka, because now you see a different way that name works. It works through you now. You're able to take that name and you might be able to do something for somebody else with that name. You know, to this homeless person I went to go feed, I might have been an angel that was sent to him. He
Hmm.
might not have had anything to eat that day, but to him, I was a gift from God.
Right. Like what you just said though, like how would how would how would orthodoxy look at that? Would they say that was shirk? Because they like I mean, from what I've seen, they will, they
Yeah,
often
they'll look at
say,
stuff like that kind of like it's taboo for some reason.
okay,
And I think it's only because of how the orthodoxy is structured. Original thought is promoted, but not outside of the framework of the orthodoxy. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
especially in the mosque. We can get deep outside of the mosque, but some things you just kind of don't
I,
in there.
yeah,
So
I
they would look
understand.
at it as I
Hmm.
wouldn't say something spooky because baraka is a term that you'll hear in the mosque,
Hmm.
but it's used, religiously,
Yeah, yeah,
not necessarily spiritually, like me saying I can embody names of Allah. Just to most Orthodox, those are names to call upon because those names belong to Him, and
right,
then He acts through those names for us. We won't really say too much about us being able to take those names and act them out in real life for self and others too.
hmm,
Which I think is a shame because, like, I have to read the Quran completely different now because of that.
mm,
Don't look at it as the people in the story. Like now, I'm the guy that's trying to possess this praiseworthy character in this story where XYZ happened, and I have to try to bring that forward to today. So I'm
right,
not venerating some guy from 1400 years ago whose existence can be questioned and debated. You
right.
know, I'm
Who
making
does
it
that?
real today. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and just I made the post like 7 or 8 years ago when I first ran across that ancestry and the connection with the Senegal, and I had been kind of bumped into Fulani and Timbuktu. And I'm like, man, I can't read the squiggly letters, but this is the stuff my ancestors wrote in, man. And
Hmm.
I made a little sob post about it online
Hmm.
8 years ago. And you know, one of my buddies hit me up and helped me with the family tree to get that started. But in the process, I began practicing Arabic with a tutor at the mosque,
Hmm.
actually get the language down.
Yeah,
Studying with Sufi Islam, there were a couple of Arabic classes and some books, and just I won't say I went too hard, but yeah, went in with the study until I became proficient with it to then see now what can I do with it. And now we're doing something with it. I don't
yeah.
have access to them texts from Timbuktu, but
Hmm.
I got next best thing, from a neighboring country that's written in the same script that
Right.
the script in Timbuktu is written in.
So no, that's for one. I mean, I definitely props and much respect to you for even taking on that task of translating some of the works of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba because there's not many in English for us to see, and you're doing that's great work, and like straight up, I salute you. I think even for people who may not be Muslim, who may not be religious, who are just into African history and African ways of knowing, to buy these books, because again, it will help you see the things that those that came before us were doing and the ideas that they had. Again, even if you're not a religious person, and I think you can still benefit from it because Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba is somebody that the history books don't often talk about.
I sure don't. And some things he embodied, I think we could use too. Like when they sent him on his exile in Mauritania,
Hmm.
they sent him to this place called Sarsara, which is essentially sand dunes, bro. There's nothing there.
Wow.
Sand
Hmm.
dunes and cactuses and the little,
Yeah.
you know, that's that's all it is.
Right.
But he wrote a poem called Hamdi wa Shukri, which is one, two, three, four, chapter five in that particular book. But he
Hmm.
wrote that one during that time frame in history, and he used some historical happenings that
Hmm.
occurred during that time frame in the poem.
Hmm.
He thanks these people called the Banu Daiman, or descended from a guy named Daiman from like west northwest Senegal near the St. Louis area.
Hmm.
When the French sent him to Mauritania, they were thinking he was too far away for anybody to go visit him, and they were going to try to weaken his movement by taking away the power figure from Senegal. But the exact opposite happened. But as soon as people in Mauritania and surrounding countries found out that Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba was there,
Hmm.
remember they already knew about him.
Yeah.
So they
Right.
came to visit him to take initiation and bayat and study up under him. Whereas the French thought that all of them were going to try to outshine him and be at a higher rank than him to thus weaken his movement. So people would come to their version of Islam they were trying to propagate. And the
So it
exact
made it
opposite happened.
stronger to in certain extent then.
Yeah, and it definitely spread because remember today, like this Dick Green book, there's a jar in Italy.
Wow. Right. Right. Right.
I don't know what Sufi Bob was doing in Italy, but
Right.
appreciate the book.
Right.
And it did cause it to spread out because now that Banu Daimon are from St. Louis, Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba told Sheikh Ibrahim to go to St. Louis with the Bifal to help build a railroad,
Mm.
come from there to Tuba for commerce back and forth, trade
Hmm.
and infrastructure like that. Ibrahim was so hardcore for working for Bamba, he refused to go.
Wow.
He didn't want to go, but Bamba made him go, of course. But when
Mm.
he shows up, he gives a teaching and example with the Bifal. He's the one out there digging the first hole. He's
Right.
the one out there making that hole line up to be a long rectangle to where the plank's going to go and keeping everything lined up. And he's teaching and giving an example of how in certain books, the sheikh's just always up here and they tell the disciple to go do something. But he's giving them an example of what it's supposed to be like. Him as the sheikh wasn't up here telling them to go do anything. Him as the sheikh was there helping them dig that railroad because he wanted to go back to Bamba.
Hmm.
I said they built that railroad in record time, man.
Wow.
Faster than was expected, just because of
Right.
the devotion to Bamba, kind of what he means for the movement and the life of the people in Senegal.
Right. And so I think that alone, again, just letting everybody know the links in the description, definitely grab those books, man. Again, it's whether you're, religious or not, I feel like to understand Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba is not just to understand the history, but the things that he wrote himself, right? And we don't always,
Mhm.
again, have a lot of things in English for us to look at. And so, Sheikh Bilal, that's a wonderful thing that you've done. Um, Within Sufism, from whether we're talking about, Rumi or Ibn Arabi, um, and a lot of, what they would consider Sufi saints. You, even if they don't say it, it's often implied about their practice and their level of devotion being in the presence of Allah, right? Like,
Yeah,
um, what does that mean to you? And can you talk about maybe what that means from a perspective or context of being on the spiritual path that Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba taught?
yeah. But since you mentioned Rumi, he always mentions this. We'll call him a personage.
Hmm.
'Cause most Muslims aren't like Allah manifest, but whatever. But he always talks about this Shams Tabrizi. He's always in his spiritual practices and meditation and contemplation. And Shams Tabrizi comes to visit him and gives him super deep teaching real quick. But as soon as Rumi gets ready to look up at Shamash Tabrizi, he's gone again. So
Mm,
all he ever catches is a glimpse and a quick transmission. But when he tries to look at it, it's gone. And then that particular part of Rumi's poetry shifts from him giving praise to now he's kind of beautifully lamenting,
mm,
seeing this beautiful light that gave him something that he can't even consciously explain, but he know he saw it. He know he
right.
saw it. And then he know he saw it disappear. Um, I feel that state, man. Sometimes, like with his Bamba's poetry, some of it's so deep it does kind of make you be like, "Shit, man, God's been in the tree in my backyard this whole time." Now, when a leaf falls from the tree, I see all that different. Like
Mm,
it didn't fall from the tree; it's just going back to it. You know,
mm,
it's a different mind state. But with the with that, there's a Quran verse that, and I'll never tell no Orthodox Muslim this, but Layla Surah Al-Qadr has the most who's in it, like
mm,
HU has the most in it out of all the short surahs. And if you isolate every one of the who, knowing who and what that is, it's so esoteric. I'm surprised they put it in the Quran, bro. Because it says Inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr, or in the Quran it's gonna say, "Verily Allah sent down the Quran on the night of power."
mhm.
But I didn't say Quran, right? It said Inna anzalnahu.
Yeah.
Verily he sent down who fi laylatul qadr on the night of power. So I'm like, this
Mm,
shit finna get deep, right?
right, right.
Wama adraka ma laylatul qadr, and what can make you realize what the night of power is? And then it tells you what it is. Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr. The night of power is better than alfi shahr. That's 1,000 months or 1,000 night vigils. This one is where it hits because it says Tanazalu. He sent down the who that we just made connection with. He sent it down. Wa malaikatuhu with his angels. Malaikatu is angel, and who applies him again. But that essence, why ruhu, and the roof is the same thing as the spirit, and hu is the breath, right?
Hmm, hmm,
So he sent all of that down on this night of power
hmm.
with his permission from the Most High, and peace be upon that night into a morning. And to me, bro, that's the moment of conception right there happening.
Right.
He sent this thing down on the night of power in triple darkness to just
Hmm.
stay for 9 months. What's the first thing we do when we pop out, bro?
We yell, cries,
Mhm. Getting
scream.
that
Yeah.
that spirit back out that
Hmm,
just became manifested in that body. But
hmm.
that who is within every living being.
Right.
So that Quran verse, I look at it completely different now, as far as being in the presence of God. So even if I'm at the barbershop and the guy beside me talk too much, he get on my nerves. I'm like, that's just Allah over there. He don't know it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
gotta giggle at it. He just don't know. But Bamba also said the Sufi has to have a daily practice. You
Hmm.
know, so on days like I said earlier, where I just kind of forget, you can kind of feel it. But on days when you're in it,
Is that
there's
daily practice
always
zikr?
either Zikr or the Monday through Friday sections of that book, or
Yeah.
a shorter one that you can read in one full long sitting. Because some just do Zikr, but I don't discriminate against the practice. I'll do my mantras. I'll read the texts and study them,
Hmm,
study the Arabic to get more and more proficient. So kind of all encompassing. But when stuff like that's done repetitively, it's like nothing else can break that barrier. Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba said in one poem that his poetry circumambulates below the throne of God.
mm,
Blasphemous, right? To the
hmm,
orthodoxy. His
hmm,
poetry is so close to Allah that it circumambulates around the throne. So what's on top of the head all set in Egypt, right? It's a chair, it's a throne, right?
hmm.
Right at the same spot where the seventh chakra sits at from another system, if we were to overlay them all on each other. So let's just say that seventh chakra is like us out of the body and able to connect to the primordial messenger, to Allah.
Mm,
If you were to say something like that inside the mosque, man, like you probably wouldn't be able to go back. Like I
right.
probably shouldn't have asked my imam, like, why does the Quran only have 3 salat? Worship Allah at the beginning of the day and at the end and in the middle.
Mm,
That's three. It doesn't say four. So yeah, no, I don't can't really go back anymore. But if Bamba's works are circumambulating around the throne of God, and we really establish it like this is the Most High, this is me, Allah actualized in person
Mm,
on the throne, that seventh chakra. If it's writing circumambulate above that, what's below it? That's the mind. So they have to stay in my conscious and subconscious mind. So if
mhm.
I'm conscious of something going on, I know what to do, what to say, how to act. Or if not, there's something in the memory banks back here that just pops up. There's a verse from the Quran that comes and pops up. There's an example from him that comes and pops up. And it's like, I was finna trip. I sure was. But in this poem said, Bamba said XYZ, and I know I'm supposed to carry myself like this. So
Yeah.
it works in real time. So it's not like spooky and the angels not coming down doing that. It's here.
You know, that
That's why I
rem
love to see brothers like you, like with the bookshelf behind you.
well,
Study.
that's what I was gonna say. I had been reading uh Joseph Campbell, Power of Myth, right? And he talked about how, society has moved so far away from these myths. But he talks about these myths were designed to teach you lessons. Um, they acted as certain, in certain ways as rites of passages. But it was the remembrance generationally of an idea and a concept that would continue to be passed down. Now, like in Western society, it seems like the need for myth in the eyes of the West is no longer, unless we're talking about the myth of American exceptionalism and white supremacy. You know what
Right,
I'm
right,
saying?
right.
But the myths that from our ancestors and even the ancestors of others, right? Like they're
Yeah.
no longer important anymore in the eyes of the West. And I just thought, like, whenever you talked about the poetry of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba and how you're able to, and even like certain things in the Quran or um, certain poetry from other Sufi saints, like how you're able to draw on these whenever you are having a bad day or whenever you may need to make, or struggling making a decision on something, or, you're able
Yeah.
to recall these things. Like I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not a question, but that just made me think of that. I thought that was important to say.
I definitely see it because brothers like us with systems like that, when we go outside, we can't help but see man in its almost lowest state.
Yeah, right, right,
To
right.
a point to where when we try to talk to him, we have to bring ourselves down a whole lot more than we're comfortable doing to be able to do it.
Hmm.
So it's kind of hard to miss, but that's one thing I love about these systems like this. And one thing I think we're missing over here as a people is just a straight up rites of passage, even if it has to be something that is, and I don't really like the term Pan African because most people don't know what Pan means. But if it would it be like that because we all a mix of certain tribes and whatnot. So you know, let's just say if my granddad were to be, into things like this, knowing how he looks and what his genetics are, I would connect him to Senegal and Nigeria.
Hmm.
Whether he bumps into Sufism and he feels, more akin to that, or whether he gets into Ifa and he's more akin to that, that's just the majority of whatever ancestor that's within him guiding him the way he need to go.
Mm,
You know,
right.
instead of just making it like, no, this is the right way, they're doing it wrong over there. Like you can do divination through the Quran. What you
Mhm.
talking about? Like the Quran's a whole talisman by itself. So they're not afraid to use it like that in West Africa either.
That's a powerful statement that the Quran is a talisman by itself. Again, that would make some orthodoxy like but
Yeah.
one thing
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you is also, and that's cool because again, the esoteric, the inner teachers to me are what's always important regardless to the system. You know what I'm saying? The like like the steps that we take to become divine or our highest manifestations of who we can be. You know what I'm saying? I think that's always, and so I guess that kind of leads me to this, like, we just lost uh Imam Jalil Alamin, and formerly known as uh H. Rap
H-Rap.
Brown. Yeah. And he's someone who, also talked about how the system needs to be fought and also the war that we fight within ourselves, how that's important as well. Like what when we like what as just kind of want to ask you generically, man, like, just what were your thoughts whenever you got the news that, you know, uh Imam Jalil re transitioned and returned to the essence?
There were two, and just because of who we are, I just always have to say, when things like that happen, we go to Inna Lillahi wa Inna Ilaihi Raji'un as a reminder.
Hmm.
Like, verily I came from Allah, and to Allah I will return. Verily we came from Allah, and to Allah we will return. And that helps keep us centered in that thought process that we about to have. So
Hmm.
we started that thought process, or at least I did,
Hmm.
with that to remember, like we ain't gonna be here forever. As much as I want to stay here as long as I can to fix as much as I can, when Allah says don't breathe no more, come home, I'm gone, and I'm
Right.
gone home. And a little bit of frustration on the backside because with what was going on with him and health wise, it should not have been left in there for that doggone long without having the proper care at all. It's almost like
Right.
they did it on purpose. He was
They,
neglected on purpose.
right. Right. Yeah.
So but pretty frustrated. I'll say frustrated instead of saying pissed off because because
No, I
gotta stay
agree.
balanced.
I felt those I felt those same emotions, man. And just want to say honors and respect to you, man, Jamil, man, like hold on. Yeah. Um, it's
Highest levels of
highest
heaven, the
right.
highest level.
Absolutely, absolutely. A fearless warrior. We appreciate everything that he did for us. The last thing that I wanted to ask you, this was one of the questions that I we had talked about before that I wanted to uh go over today. Some people say that Sufism is not real Islam. What goes through your mind when you hear that, and how do you explain your path to people who believe that?
And forgiving God because they don't know what they're talking about. I hate to turn the Bible verse into Ebonics, but sometimes I have to make myself laugh at it. Like
Yeah.
in my mind, I see somebody like that, and hopefully it don't come off as harsh, but they stuck at the first degree.
Mm,
They're literally stuck at the first degree and probably incapable of obtaining the third one. Because if we look at the Hadith of Jibril, right, him and
mm,
him and Muhammad is discussing three things, three levels of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right?
mm,
The first one is Islam,
mm,
like tells them what Islam is about the five pillars, or what is Iman. So you can get into the six articles and how it's true belief, faith and belief. It's not just blind faith and belief, it's true pride and truth.
yeah.
Faith and belief, right?
Hmm.
So you know what you're trying to attain because you're a step above. And then Ihsan, so they're discussing three levels. Ihsan, they say, is we can look at Ihsan as like God consciousness, right?
Mm, okay.
God consciousness. So how we say God bodied over here, like it's essentially the same idea and concept. But a person with each of those degrees of understanding, one with Islam is a Muslim, right?
Mm,
And then one with Iman is a Mu'min, as you drop the I at the beginning. And with the third one, it's a Muhsin. So the H is like darn near silent, right?
hmm.
So some people don't pronounce it. It's just a small pause or gap between the S and the I and the N. But Muhsin in Arabic will be Muhsin. But that U in Muhsin is technically not a U, it's an A, right? With the accent mark on it to make it sound like a U.
Mm.
So if we realize that it's an A and we pronounce it in Arabic as Muhsin at the third over here, you are a master mason at the third. It's literally the same progression of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, knowledge of self, your ethics, morals, spiritual teachings. This is a progressive path. Like Allah says, Islam was revealed in stages.
Stages. Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
should have said degrees, but I get it. They did. Surah in Aramaic means degree. So
Mm.
it's 99 degrees in the Quran. Well, sorry,
Wow.
114.
Hmm. Wow.
114 degrees of understanding based on the stories that are in it. But
Hmm.
I think we got time there. Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba kind of ties it all up in Masalical Jinan, which is probably one of my like go-tos. Like it's the Murid Bible, I think, because he condensed um where's that name? There were two Sufis previous writings that he synthesized into one. Oh, I still had it pulled up here. I don't. I, but two writings on fiqh, which is jurisprudence, do's and don'ts. Aqidah, which is a core precept of faith from like the orthodoxy going into Iman. Tawheed, divine oneness. Tasawwuf, which is Sufism, and then there's some prayers and practices, mantras and zikrs throughout, and some examples of where he pulled his wisdom from. So it's like five or six different types of Islam and Sufism all in one. And he mentions about the importance of having both sides.
Yeah.
Um, According to the masters, religious knowledge is divided into two sorts: it's exoteric knowledge and esoteric.
Hmm.
The exoteric is in charge of man's actions like do's and don'ts, ethics, morals, while the esoteric one deals with the spiritual mood. So this the source of why my, actions and doings and whatnot are the way they are. The first one is fiqh, Islamic law. For those that don't know what the Arabic word is, just your Islamic do's and don'ts, how to carry yourself as a Muslim in public. The second one is tasawwuf or mysticism. He says it behooves any believer to comply first with the rules of fiqh at Islam
Hmm.
for practicing tasawwuf. So he started in the middle because Iman, true faith and belief, the believer has to first understand fiqh at Islam first
Right.
before going up to the next, and also prior to practicing tasawwuf, because whoever disregards the legal rules of worship, the fiqh, and they undertake tasawwuf, they shall perish in this world by the sentence of the doctrine of the law. Because they'll be deep in Sufism, but they won't have their base in Islam like it's supposed to be.
Right.
So they may be doing a lot of stuff they're not supposed to do as a Sufi, and they won't even know any better. So somebody, call them
Yeah.
out about it.
Right.
Um, any such that neglects the mystical and inner aspects or the tasawwuf shall perish in the next world by the will of the majestic Lord. So it's considered compulsory for
Hmm.
any servant to combine respect for the rules of worship, the fiqh, and with the concern for the material and the mystical aspects of tasawwuf to obtain full reward. Know thou that who conforms to the apparent modes of worship while not giving credit to the inside or the inwardly considerations is assuredly a thorough rascal. I can't, imagine hearing Ahmed
Hmm.
Bamba calling somebody a rascal, but because they're focusing on mysticism without a base in Islam, or they're only going to deal with Islam and they'll damn and curse mysticism. They both have to be put together because
Right.
that's where we get the balance from that third one. Yeah.
Hmm.
And all that's got from that one book, Masalico Jinan, to where it's a degree book, like it's a Murid Bible. You can see the levels and progress, that you're supposed to take. It's all inclusive, all in one.
No doubt. No doubt. Everybody, make sure you go to the description, hit that link, uh, cop the books. It's very important to support our brothers and the work that they do. Sheikh Bilal, again, it's always an honor and pleasure to have you on the show, and I look forward to future conversations with you. And thank you for all the work that you do.
I mean, we ain't done yet, God.
Yeah, I already know.
Gotta keep it moving.
Indeed, indeed. Appreciate you, King.
Hey, no problem, God.
Peace.